NWP Radio.
You're listening to NWP Radio, a production of the National Writing Project.
NWP.
All right, I know the sun is setting earlier and the cooler breezes are arriving once again all across the nation. We've been hearing the cicadas singing the back-to-school lullabies, and I know many of us have already returned to another academic year. If we're not there already, we will be getting there soon. This has been my preparatory week, and as a result, I visited my guy Jerry, who's my barber, and I got a back-to-school fresh haircut, which made me remember the book Crown, which was written by the author that we have here tonight, and I'm excited because this is my ode to a fresh cut, and shout out to Jerry. And then there's nothing like it, especially when your barber is superb and our writer is superb tonight. I digress. This isn't about me. This isn't about my hair. This is about another year of the National Writing Project's The Right Time, the show that began during COVID, during shutdowns, and is still running strong. I'm sure we're all checking our biceps these days to measure how strong we are. So I'm wondering, how's your strength, Tanya? How strong are you on the West Coast?
Well, hi, Brian. I've missed you this summer, so I'm excited to start a new season of The Right Time. Everyone, I'm so glad that you're all here. I'm Tanya Baker, the Executive Director of the National Writing Project. And of course, Brian, I can't help but flex and feel strong knowing that we're booked for another year of right time programming. I want to thank you, Brian, for co-hosting and being on this ride with us. It's fun to do this together. Tonight, we are truly honored to have author Derrick Barnes and teacher leader Dr. Chandra Maxwell with us. When Brian learned that his writing project would be bringing Derrick to Connecticut in October, we knew we wanted to share his books with our wider audience. We didn't know at that time that his latest book, written for middle grade readers, was going to be named a 2025 Kirkus Prize finalist, adding to Derrick's many successes. How wonderful that we get to celebrate this tonight. Derrick, Chandra, we are so fortunate to have both of you with us this evening.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Wonderful. So I get the great fortune of introducing the author tonight. Derrick Barnes is a National Book Award finalist for his graphic novel Victory, Stand, Raising My Fist for Justice, which should be in every classroom. It also won the YALSA Excellence in Young Adult Nonfiction Award and a Coretta Scott King Award Author Honor. He is also the author of the critically acclaimed multi-award-winning picture book Crown, an ode to the fresh cut, which I already mentioned, which received a Newbery Honor, a Coretta Scott King Author Honor, the Ezra Jack Keats New Writer Award, and the Kirkus Prize for Young Readers. In 2020, he became the only author to win the Kirkus Prize twice for the New York Times bestseller I Am Every Good Thing, which also won a Charlotte Huck Award and a Boston Globe Hornbook Award honor. Derrick is also the creator of the New York Times best-selling companion picture books, The King of Kindergarten and The Queen of Kindergarten, which I do not have because I don't have young readers in my house right now. He is a native of Kansas City, Missouri, but currently lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, with his enchanting wife, Dr. Tinka Barnes, and their 4 sons, the mighty Barnes brothers. Oh, man, that sounds like a good household. Passing it over to you, Tanya.
That sounds amazing. It's my honor to introduce Dr. Chandra Maxwell. She's a lead English language arts teacher at David Wooster Middle School in Stratford, Connecticut. She became interested in literature as a student at Central Magnet High School in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Through her English teacher, Mrs. Cynthia Fernandes, she learned about the power of intentional writing as found in the works of Langston, Hughes, and Lorraine Hansberry. As a result, Dr. Maxwell has done extensive research on equitable reading intervention programs for middle school students so that all students can be exposed to intentional reading and writing practices. Dr. Maxwell, it's so great to have you here. I'm going to turn it over to you, and you're going to get us started with a writing prompt, I believe.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much. So our writing prompt is: describe a time when you realized you were reading with intention. If this hasn't happened yet, what would you like for this to look like?
Reading with intention. I love it.
That's a great question. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was going to say, have a great conversation. I'm going to start thinking about how I'd respond to that, and I'm going to move off air. Just if I can remember how to do this, there we go. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, the show is yours.
Okay, so Mr. Barnes, how would you respond to the writing prompt that was posted?
I think, in regards to reading with intent, I think we do that all the time as writers. I'm asked the question often, what are you reading right now? And it makes me feel bad because I don't, and I guess I'm no different than any other, working adult with children. I don't get to read for pleasure a lot, but I read a lot for reference. I read a lot for voice. I read a lot for style. Just having a Rolodex of authors or subject matters or themes that are similar to what I'm working on. And I don't think you can, read with intent, as far as I'm concerned, without taking notes. I'm very old school, in that way. Still handwritten notes, but I read a lot for reference now because I I think it's important as a writer, like whatever subject matter that I may be working on, I want to make sure that the reader feels the character, feels the theme, understand the point that I'm trying to bring across to them. And the best way to do that is to expand my resources, pull in as much references that I possibly can um, in order to accomplish that goal. So I read with intent all the time as a creator, you know.
Thank you. And to further expand on that, why do you think, or why do you think it would be important for middle school students to learn how to read with intention?
So for the past, I guess 7 or 8 years, I've been in the picture book world.
Okay.
And I have two middle grade novels, but one thing that I have observed being around middle school students, obviously my four sons, my boys have been middle school students. Uh, I think, we talk about comprehension. That's probably the most important thing, when it comes to that age group. We're talking about 20 ages of maybe 9 to 12, 13. Um, comprehension, even with my 14-year-old, he's reading fiction and nonfiction books right now, to make sure that we have a conversation. I mean, you can't do anything in this house unless you read for 20 minutes or you read two chapters. And so we have conversations so that I understand that he understood what he was reading and what things that he pick up on and how can he apply those to his own life and what are the things that he understood in that chapter that will propel him into the next chapter and to hopefully complete the book. So yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Now, moving toward some of the works that you've done, particularly the Tommy Smith story, why do you feel it is important to read and write with intention? We just touched on that, but specifically, why did you choose to tell the story of Tommy Smith and John Carlos's experience during the 1968 Olympics? And what do you hope readers take away from this important story?
I was just talking to Gordon C. James last night, and we were talking about legacy and uh, talking to young illustrators and talking to young writers about why are you doing what you are doing? What kind of legacy do you expect to leave behind? I don't think a lot of artists think enough about that. That in this day and age, in this current time of human history that we're in, you are a de facto activist, whether you want to be or not. And I choose to be actively. And so I think about when my career is over with and you lay out all of my work, I want you to see a theme, and that theme is activism. That theme is self-love. That theme is highlighting the beauty and brilliance of Black children. And so when I was offered that opportunity, because Dr. Smith and I have the same literary agent, and I had no idea what genre or format we were going to write this book in. So I had a chance to fly down to his house in Stone Mountain, Georgia, and went down to his man cave. I stayed at his house the whole day. And when we finally came up, I was gonna do his life story in verse, but because he was once the fastest man on the planet, I just thought it would be so awesome to kind of see him Ernie Barnes style, kind of stretched out, elongated action. You know what I mean? So I was like, this would be great to do a graphic novel. I had never done a graphic novel before. So I studied graphic novels for about 3 or 4 months. Chinese-born American. I studied the biographical graphic novels of Frederick Douglass, Satchel Paige, and I was just trying to do something different. I didn't want to do the whole cradle to current thing, so I just kind of spaced out the story at the same pace that it took him to run that 200-meter race. And I was taking a big chance, because like I was saying, I've kind of hit pretty, I've made my hay in the picture book world, so I was very nervous about that. But I want this book to be a part of my legacy. The fact that this man, this regular man, other than the fact that he was once the fastest man on the planet, decided to use his God-given ability to say something, to make a difference in the world. And I want all of these young people to actually pick up the book to realize that you can make a change wherever you are. You use whatever God has blessed you with in order to make a difference on your block, in your neighborhood, at your school. When you see that wrongs are, being committed against other human beings, you don't have to sit silent. You use whatever ability you have in order to move the needle, in order to change things. I think that was my primary source of inspiration, for writing that book, and it was just an honor to meet him and just hang out with him. He and his wife have become like my surrogate parents, and I look up to him so much.
Wonderful, wonderful story. Moving forward, authenticity, passion, and intention are areas of writing many middle school students struggle with. With this said, how would you suggest teachers aid students in finding their own voice within their own authentic writing?
So my first middle grade novel I wrote in 2010. It was called We Could Be Brothers, and it was published by Scholastic, and they sent me 2 summers in a row to University of Illinois at Chicago, and I worked with an amazing educator, brother named Dr. Alfred Tatum, and he had an amazing summer program where he took like maybe 30 young African American boys that were middle school, high school age from the South Side of Chicago, and the program was maybe about 2 months long. And he had those boys writing poetry, graphic novels, short stories, synopses for novels in the first few chapters of novels. And one thing he would tell them that still sticks with me today when I sit down to work on something new is that everybody has a story to tell. Every single person. There's only one you on this planet. And so he created a safe space where the boys could be vulnerable and they could write freely, and nobody was criticizing them, snickering, and it allowed the boys to think freely, to express themselves freely. And I always remember that experience because that's my demographic. And the most important thing a writer could do is to not think about the advances or think about the book tours, but you think about who your end user is going to be. you know, and how is that book that you're working on going to change their lives? So, you know, Dr. Tatum created that safe space, and he allowed them to use their life experiences. As you can imagine, they live on South Side of Chicago, so many of them have seen everything, you know, and he allowed them to use their own language, and so they didn't feel judged, you know what I mean? So um, I think about that often whenever I travel around the country. I think about the space that Dr. Tatum made for those young men.
Wonderful. In regards to male middle school students, how can teachers help build confidence within their writing? How can teachers help convince male students that their stories are important and should be told?
But you know, we were having a conversation before we came on. I was talking about how before my career took off, I've had so many jobs, and one of them that that still sits with me. I did outreach for the Kansas City Public Library, so I went out every day, and I did story times. I did at daycare centers, at elementary schools, but 3 days out of the week, we went to the Kansas City, Missouri Juvenile Detention Center, where there were boys, I guess from the ages of 13 to 18. They were in there for any number of, you know, infractions, some minor, some major. And our job was to do a creative writing exercise 3 days out of the week. And so sometimes, you know, we would have some of the same boys in there. You know, I would pray for them, hope that they would get out soon, you know, and they did. But the thing I remember most is I never had, you know, any resistance. Like they would be quiet at first, but whatever the writing prompt was that I, you know, offered up to them, they would actually work on it. We give them like 10, 15 minutes. And then as one boy stood up and read his, another boy got up and read his, you know, going back to what I was saying before, we created this space where they could be vulnerable and not feel judged. And, and, and when you do that, the other boys in the room start to respect the stories and the lives and, you know, the individual is actually standing up. I don't think we do enough to, uh, you know, build up that vulnerability where boys can be honest and feel brave to get up and express their feelings and thoughts and ideas, fears, and you know, we were able to do that. And so I think again, that's the most important thing is to create that space. But another thing that really helped us out is that we allowed them to write about themselves. So I would put them in different scenarios. You know, you're stranded on a deserted island, and you have to find a way to get off the island. Or you can bring six things with you, and so I allowed them to be in their own story, and that really builds up a lot of self confidence, and you know, writing about yourself, being in a safe space, and also just allowing them to read books without any kind of criticism. Going back to what we were saying about, you know, graphic novels, how graphic novels is a entry point to chapter books, to you know, middle grade novels. So, you know, those are just some of the things that I did that for. I did that for 2 years, and I met some of the most brilliant young men that you could possibly meet. You know, they were just you know, unfortunately they come from environments that um, you know, did not prepare them for what it meant to be a successful scholar. So I think about a few of those boys often and hope, you know, hopefully they're doing well now.
While we're on the subject of graphic novels, in your opinion, why do you think graphic novels appeal to middle school aged males? And what do you say to critics who feel graphic novels aren't considered to be reading or literature?
Well, raising four boys, I used to drive a minivan. I don't drive a minivan anymore. and I have memorized every single Marvel movie in my head without actually seeing the scenes. And the cool thing about that is, I've had the opportunity to work on some screenplays and work on 2 graphic novels. And I think the boys are able to see, action, on the page and the action described. We had to write these different panels. I mean, it is so similar to screenplay writing, and I think it's the brevity of the words. I think it's the use of action words. I think it's the pacing. You know, I was taught that early on. I had a series called the Ruby and the Booker Boys series, and one of my friends told me that it's I first learned this too because my boys were younger, that boys like that quick pacing. Girls, on the other hand, when you write for girls mostly, they really like everything kind of that is detailed, spelled out. What does the room look like? What does it smell like? You know what I mean? Are there any sounds going on? Boys are quite different. They want things to move at a rapid pace, and they want action. And I think it's the whole paneling and dissecting of those scenes that really appeal to them. It helps the story move a little bit faster.
On a side note, I am also a mother of boys, and as a result, I have become a very big Marvel uh, genre
Yeah.
fan myself. But I digress because I could go on for a very
Oh
long
yeah.
time about Marvel and the stories and I
And the
can
Avengers and the X-Men and all that.
absolutely in the stories and the intentionality of those characters and
Mhm.
why they did things that they did and why they made
Right,
the choices that they made,
right.
some of those conflicting choices and the character development. So I
Mhm.
absolutely agree with you wholeheartedly with the intentionality
Yeah,
of
yeah.
stories that are found in Marvel Comics. So yes, I absolutely. So as a middle school student, what genre of texts did you like and why? And did you find any of them lacking in terms of intentionality?
So when I was a middle school student, the only author that wrote and created characters that were similar to me, and they weren't quite similar to me because they were from New York. Most of his characters were from New York, was Walter's books.
Walter Dean, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, but he was the only one at that time. So, to be quite honest with you, I really didn't read a lot of fiction during that time. I read a lot of nonfiction. I'm a big history buff, especially African American history, African history. I love music, as you can see on my wall. I have some of my favorite albums of all time. And when I was growing up, the albums had liner notes and they had all the lyrics to every song, and that was poetry to me. And I remember as early as the third grade, right now, Stevie Wonder lyrics, Bird of Flack, Earth, Wind and Fire, and just really, I was really fascinated by the fact that Stevie could not see, but he could describe what it felt like to have your heart broken or to experience love for the first time and to use color and sound, to describe those feelings. And I think that's how I got poetry and started studying all the writers from the Harlem Renaissance. But music was my gateway. A huge hip hop fan. When hip hop was all about lyricism, so I read a lot of nonfiction and I did a lot of songwriting, really studying song lyrics when I was in middle school.
Oh, all right. And I understand that you have a couple of picture books being released this summer. Can you tell us about them?
So I had one picture book that came out on July 15th, entitled "I Got You: A Brother's Promise," and it was my 21st book. I've been in this business for over 20 years, man. So It's a blessing. For 21 years I've been in this business. And it was my first book where I touched on brotherly love. I was raised in a single parent household. My mother worked a lot. She was a CNA. She worked in mostly nursing homes. And my brother and I was, we were left at home a lot. My brother's 7 years my senior, and he is my hero. He was my hero growing up. He still is my hero. And so I dedicate that book to him, and it's just an ode and tribute to older siblings and how they are many times our first best friend. They are our tour guides of this thing called life. And having four sons, I got a chance to really, from an outside view, get a chance to see, their relationships, cultivate. And so it's dedicated to my brother, dedicated to the relationships of my four sons, and to all the big brothers out there, and big sisters and cousins, big cousins that we consider siblings. That book is for them.
It's wonderful. And and how about your YA novel being released this September? What can you tell us about the incredibly human Henson Blaze?
Ladies, that is my that it's too early. Even though I've been in the business for 20 years, I can't say that that's my magnum opus, but I feel like I put a lot into that book. It took me over like seven and a half years to write that book off and on. And the incredibly human Henson Blaze is about a 13-year-old boy in a fictional town in the Delta of Mississippi called Great Mountain, Mississippi. And he's been a football phenom in that, predominantly white town since he was playing Little League football. And he's such a great athlete that there are wise tales and stories about him and his family not actually being human, that maybe they have superhuman powers. And this town, the town folks love him. They are crazy about Henson Blaze and the fact that he's gonna be their athlete that they can hang their hat on. So they've been waiting on him to play high school football. Well, something happens to a kid that he considers a brother. He gets hurt extremely bad by the local police. So Henson decides not to play football, and it changes the whole perspective of these town folk and the way they look at Henson Blaze because they only see him as an athlete. And so he has a decision to make. Is he going to continue to entertain these people who don't actually care about him? Or is he going to make another decision to show them that he is actually human? And I just want to focus on America's fascination with the Black body, whether we're talking about labor, uh, slavery, or entertainment. Talk about the way America sees Black entertainers, and in this case, athletes, basketball players, football players. I wrote this book for Black boys who have a desire to be athletes, to let them know that you are much more than somebody that can run fast or dunk a ball or score touchdowns. There are a multitude of things that you can be. It's one of the running jokes in this house that we are done entertaining this country. We need more Black engineers. We need more Black surgeons. We need more Black business owners. And so I think everybody can get something from this book. Country is so divided right now. It seems like it has always been that way. When we talk about everything that's going on in different states with, gerrymandering, I think people can get from this book, not just for Black boys, but to challenge these stereotypes that we grow up with about people from different ethnic groups, and just try to see the humanity in people who may not look like you, even though you've been taught to see people a certain way. When I see news stories about Black athletes, I think about my boys. When I see news stories about white athletes, I travel all across this country. I've been in some of the whitest areas in this country, some of the poorest, blackest areas, some of the richest Black areas. I'm around kids from every ethnic group, every socioeconomic level. All these babies are the same. They all want to be respected. They all want to be loved. They all want to be treated fairly, but they don't live around each other. So sometimes the only experience you may get of what it means to be black or what it means to be Latinx or what it means to be Asian is these stereotypes that kids are fed or what you may see, in pop culture. So Henson Blaze is one of my favorite characters I've ever created. It's told in a 2 week span, but I think he grows a lot within that 2 week span, and he has the opportunity to see himself as more than just an athlete. So I'm so excited about this book, and I pray so much that it reaches who it needs to reach. So we'll see.
Absolutely. I'm excited to read it myself. And for our final question, we've already touched upon what you're currently reading. We're reading for reference, but what can you tell us about what you're working on next? What's up next for you?
So I just signed a book deal. I don't know if I can share the details, but one thing I can say is I'm working with one of my favorite, probably my favorite illustrator of all time, Vanessa Brantley Newton. We did Ruby and the Book of Boys. We did The King, Queen, and Kindergarten, and we have something special that's going to be announced pretty soon. I have a book coming out with Gordon James again. It's a collection of poems and essays entitled "Do It for the People," where I focus on Black athletes who have sacrificed everything, their lives, their means of making a living, just to protest racism in this country. And I just signed another deal for a middle grade poetry book. It's paying homage to one of my favorite musicians of all time. Really excited about that book. Uh, I'm getting ready to go on tour for Henson Blaze at the beginning of September, and hopefully somewhere near you. Come out and see me.
Look forward to it, for sure. For sure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's a great segue because Chandra's students will be getting copies of the incredibly human Henson Blaze, and we will
Let's
be
get
delivering
it.
it. You should be seeing her at the Friday event for Storyfest. That'll be awesome.
All
Yes.
right, y'all.
Well, I just want to. I'm going to be quick, and then I'm going to hand it back over to you to do the show. I don't realize. I mean, I didn't realize you were going to bring up Dr. Alfred Tatum, who, if Dr. Alfred Tatum did not exist, I would not exist. Like
Oh man,
he
really?
is so influential to my scholarship and everything I am as a thinker. And
Yeah.
he came into my world at the exact right time. First reading him because he's brilliant, and then meeting
Oh
him,
yeah.
and then Goldie Muhammad, who was his student too. She
Cody Muhammad's
also.
like a little sister to me, man.
Yeah,
I love
she's
Cody.
she's she's I consider the same. I consider her a big sister, even though I'm a little bit older. But I love like because you included music in with in with the
Yes,
package of
sir.
songs that go, and she does that all the time too. So huge, huge huge conversation tonight. I love that we're all activists and that all these babies are the same, and I think that's where, Chandra and I, we found each other because we were trying to find the books that we know kids will read if they have it in their hands. We just have to find the right book. So I appreciate you for writing the right books. Chandra, I
Thank
think
you.
you have a closing prompt.
I can put it up too if we want to, maybe. Let's see.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the closing prompt is, now that we have concluded our conversation with Mr. Barnes, going forward, how would you like to see intentional reading and writing done within a middle school classroom?
Yeah.
That's great. Let's see, I'm supposed to move to the next slide. Sorry, I'm so distracted by that conversation, I can't even think. Uh, my job is to thank everyone. So, Chandra, wonderful questions. Dr. Maxwell, sorry, and a lovely interview. Uh, Derrick Barnes, so many things. Like Brian, I'm a huge fan of Dr. Tatum's, and we co-published a book of his a few years ago, and I would love to think about pairing the books you write with the book about how to teach reading and writing to young Black boys. I think we should put those things together somehow in the future. I'd really love to do that. And I also just want to say how beautiful it is to hear a professional, anyone, talk about the arc of their career and the 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 theme of what they've put out into the world. That was beautiful. So many things that people are going to be thinking about and talking about from this interview. I can't thank you both enough.
Thank y'all. Thank
Thank
y'all for
you.
having me. So it's a huge honor. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Maxwell. I appreciate the conversation. And it's an honor to be on the show, and I appreciate it. Everything happens when it's supposed to happen. I was the Incredible Human Henson Blaze is based in the Delta of Mississippi, and I got the news that it's going to be called a Kirkus finalist while I was driving through the Delta of Mississippi. So it's divine timing, and then so is this conversation. Thank y'all so much for having me.
Thank you so much. This was great.
You're listening to NWP Radio, a production of the National Writing Project. NWP. NWP Radio.